What's up, guys? So Pydantic recently announced Pydantic AI, and they are expanding into AI agent space, and they are willing to become a new validation layer for AI models, right? Just like they are for the existing Python software. So in this video, we are going to do an end-to-end project on Pydantic AI. So let's get started. Okay, let's just first understand the problem statement. Hiring is a difficult problem. So there are a lot of consulting headhunters out there which offer their services to startups and big tech. So in this video, we're gonna write a AI-based tool for these headhunters to do cold email outreach. So our agent will accept a job posting URL and write a cold email corresponding to that. So this basically eliminates human in the loop and makes process a lot easier. So let's just dive right into it. Alright, so the dependencies for this project will be, obviously we are using Pydantic AI. So let me just go ahead and create a notebook here, Jupyter notebook, and we are gonna call it maybe Groq Pydantic AI, or maybe let's call it cold email generator.ipy notebook. So this is going to be Jupyter notebook, and Jupyter notebooks tends to be very good for experimentation. So we will start with Jupyter notebook and we will build our prototype in the notebook, and as we go on and as we complete our prototype, we will move to end-to-end project. So we'll be basically using normal Python code bases, and after that we'll use a Gradio app to build a UI on top of it, and the backend will be handled by Pydantic and all. So okay, so let's just get started. So one thing to keep in mind is Pydantic AI is the async framework, right? So it makes all the call asynchronously. So but this is a this is a synchronous notebook. So Pydantic is asynchronous framework. So here in this notebook, since it's not a HTTP service, we are going to be running everything synchronously. So for that, we are going to use this nest async IO package. So let's grab that up. Yep, install QQ nest async IO. Next, we are going to use Pydantic and Pydantic AI. Let's get the rich. So it's for petty printing, and let's script this package called HTML to text. We'll explain later why are we getting this. So okay, right, so let's execute it. Let me just ignore the volume here. And one more thing that we will need is python.env. So basically we'll be using Groq LLM API provider for this tutorial. So what Groq is basically, so Groq is a company that hosts the LLMs. So LLMs like Llama and Llama 2, Llama 3, everything. And so if I just go to their playground, so I think, yeah, they're asking me to authenticate. So let me just go ahead and authenticate myself. Cool. So yeah, so Groq, yeah, as if you can see here on the top right corner, it gives me option of Llama 3.8p and Gemma and other models like Llama 370p. So basically, I don't want to use a local LLM. I can use it maybe through Llama, even HuggingFace, but for the simplicity, I just want to go ahead with Groq. It's totally free, so first thing you will need to do is basically when you sign up with Groq, you have to go to API key section and go ahead and create an API key. So maybe put something name and click on submit, and it copy the API key that comes, and you just have to go and create a .env file. I will show you this one. So .env.example is exactly same as .env file, but I cannot show you my credentials, right? So for obvious reasons. So just make a .env file and just copy everything here and replace this by your API key, right? So then you are good to go. And as for pricing, Groq is pretty cheap. So you can basically call all these models for free if you are like making under the request limit, right? So it's like, so let's say we'll be using mostly Llama 3.8p. It's like 30 requests per minute. That is like more than enough for this, right? So right, so yeah, so let's get started. So first of all, let me just load my API keys for Groq. So I'll say, hey, import .env, and let me just do or maybe from .env import Python load.env, right? So this basically loads the environment variable that's in the .env file, load.env, right? So let's execute it. So okay, let me just see if the API key is working or not. So we'll basically write a dummy agent quickly, and that will be to test that if our API key is correct or not, and maybe just get a first-hand impression of how the Pydantic AI agent look like. So let's just go ahead and import our agent from Pydantic AI. So what we get, the syntax for that is from Pydantic AI import agent. Let me just build my first agent. Let's call it hello world agent equal to agent. So now the first thing that you need to do here is provide a model, right? So here what basically Pydantic is integrated seamlessly with the model providers, like if you can see here my screen, Groq, Vertex AI, Gemini, OpenAI, right? Anthropic support is coming, so we are just going to use Groq. So let's just go to Groq page and see what models are supported. So as you can see, all these models are supported. Let's see what we have. So I'll just go for let's say Llama 3 3B preview, right? So let me just copy this value here, right? And then here there is a model field. So what I will do is I'll just paste here, and apart from that I'll just need to do this Groq. So by this, Pydantic knows that hey, now we are using Groq API provider. So this is the best thing about it. You don't have to do anything else. Just provide the API provider, then go model name, and that's it. It can take care of model switching in the backend automatically. All right. So next thing is system prompt. So system prompt is basically it's like a preamble or a prompt. So when you initialize an agent, right, agent or any AI tool, so it should have some identity, right? So let's say if I am going to work in a maybe let's say as a software engineer, so there should be something that I must know beforehand, prerequisite, right? So I must know Python, I must know Flask, I must know some, let's say, basic software engineering principle. Those are like system prompt for me when I am going to work on a task. So similarly, system prompt for an agent it's an indicator for model to assume that identity. So let's say, hey, you are an excellent cook, right? So this now my agent is going to be cook agent, right? So now I think I can ask everything about the food and all, right? So now LLM has the agent has assumed that identity. So let me just call the agent, right? So agent okay, I called it hello world agent dot run sync. Since we are in a notebook, we are going to run it synchronous mode. So let me say suggest me 3 recipes for today's breakfast, right? So let me just grab that in a variable called result, and let me just run this cell. Okay, so yeah, so we got this error because we did not get a proper event loop for nest async IO. So what we are going to do is let's just get nest async IO dot apply. So this basically creates an event loop for this notebook. Now let's just go ahead and run this, and we'll be fine. So as you can see, this ran successfully, and let's say result. So it basically returned a Pydantic model run result. So let's just do a pretty printing. So let me just import this package called rich here. So from rich import print as pprint. We'll see in a minute. So if you do classical print in Python, you'll just get a printing like this, which is not readable, right? So let's just go ahead and use pretty print. You can see this which gave you this nice pretty printed format. Models are printed like, you know, proper indents and all. So if you can see here, you have fields like all messages and user prompt, system prompt. This was the system prompt we gave, and this was a user prompt. And all right, so now if you can see, there's a field called data. So this is where the agent response is there. So let me just print that particular thing, right? So data. So now see, the model says, hey, I'll be happy to suggest a delicious breakfast for you to try today. Here they are. So it says recipe 1, and then recipe 2, and recipe 3. So basically this generated in markdown format. So maybe if I can just grab it here and add a markdown cell and just maybe run it here. See, it's nicely printed markdown. So here, this one starting from here. So it's like here, even bold headings and all, proper indentation. So it's like, this is how you run your first agent. So all right, so let's jump into the problem solution right away. So let's take a note. So what is given? So we will have a URL of job posting. So it will be a URL, web address to job posting, and what is agent supposed to do? So our agent will basically number one, fetch the job data from the posting URL. That's number one. Number two, use that information and write a cold email. That's it, right? So use the job posting and write a cold email. So if you can see, this is a two-step process, right? So let's focus on first one. We need job data from the any job website, right? So I just wrote this little utility. So basically it's called scrape website, and what it does is basically make a request call to that URL, and it basically uses Beautiful Soup to convert that HTML data in the response to text, and basically it does some cleaning and all. For example, let me just give you an so this is my portfolio website. So right, so I just want to get the data of this website, right? So I have website URL, content, scrape website, done. So let me just print the content. So as you can see, all of this is nicely printed and as just it's like markdown format, so as it was there, right? So that's what our little utility does. So that's it, right? But remember one thing, Pydantic is all about structural data and validation and all, and that's what built into core of Pydantic AI. So let's just see how can we build our code email writer agent using the Pydantic AI's validation layer, right? So what we'll basically do is, so okay, let's just write our first agent, right? So this agent is supposed to fetch the data from the website and convert into meaningful Pydantic model that has structured information about the job posting, and we will basically use that result and pipe into our another agent that will, given the job information, it will write a cold email as per the posting is, right? So let's just jump into the first step. So what is our requirement? So our requirement is a URL, right? So we are going to build a Pydantic model that let's call it job information fetch dependency, and this is going to be a data class. So from data class as import data class, right? So let me just decorate it and call it a data class, and it will have its job post URL, right? So it's going to be a string, right? So this is going to be the input of our first agent. Next, what is the output going to be look like, right? So goal of this agent is to get the data from the website and parse it to something meaningful and return that parsed job information. So stuff like job title, company name, experience, and stuff like what are required details that maybe perks and all. So this is structured information that like for that particular job. So that will be our output look like, and our input is like job URL. First, we already wrote a utility that given a job URL, it fetches the raw data from the job page. Let's call that class job description agent dependency, right? So why we call it dependency is because the agent is not going to use the job post URL and make the call. We are going to write a tool for it, and it will use that tool to fetch the information. So if you will notice here, it might not be clear now, but you will be notice here that even though we are dealing with an unstructured problem, we are going throughout this problem, we are going to, our input and outputs are going to be Pydantic model, and the logical layer inside will be a Pydantic AI based agent. Description agent agency will look like job posting information. So this will be raw text extracted from the job portal, right? This is our input. So this will be our tool input. So we'll write a tool that uses the scrape website function, and it fetches the data from the website, and this is our tool output and agent input. So agent will call that tool and to fetch that information from the website. So let's see what our agent output looks like. So let's call it job description agent result, and this will be a Pydantic based model, right? So, and what will be the fields? So first is job title, right? Job role, let's call it role. And next will be what is the company name that we are working with. So company name, this will also be a string. And the next is experience. So our agent will use the information from the website and parse an experience, right? So what are the required skills for that role, right? Because these are like essential components of a job. Skills may be multiple. Since we want to deal in terms of structured data, we are going to keep it list. Let's say Python list, Python skill, or machine learning skill, or web development Flask skill, etc., etc. And last field is text field. Let's call it description. So maybe everything related to, let's say, compensation or anything else is going to be there, right? So I updated our agent output to this. So what is this field here, right? Since we are dealing in terms of structured, unstructured to structured information, our agent is going to need some indication that what field this signify, right? So for example, here these names are obvious, but anyways, the agent might just be confused that what does this mean, because agent is trained on raw data, right? It is not a specialized fine tune for the tasks like job headhunting and all, and recruiting and all. So it's like a general model. Llama is a generic model trained on everything on the internet, and it does not know. So we are going to be as helpful as we can for the model. So we use this something called Pydantic field. So each of this variable in this Pydantic model is a field, and we are going to add a description for that model. So let's say for role, we tell the model, we say that, hey, the job title or role position being described. So for company name, which is obvious, the company job is posted, experience required years and type of experience. So basically, by writing all this information, we are telling model that, hey, this is what this field will be. So by the way, we are not going to do any manual injection of, hey, job description dot role, job description dot company name. We are not going to do manually field wise extraction from it. Agent is going to do everything on its own, right? So for that, agent needs to know what fields in input models are and what fields in output models are. So let's just go ahead and take that with an example. So let's say, hey, job, let's make our agent. So job description parser agent, let's import the agent. So now next we'll use the model, right? So I'm just going to use the Llama 3.2 3B model. It's a small model, even though we can use like bigger models, but I think this is just going to work out. If you remember, we just wrote a simple agent here that takes a model name, takes a system prompt, and that's it. This is not a real world scenario looks like. So if you have worked with LangChain and all, so there are multiple agents chained up together. So one's input and then second output. Now the output of first agent is input to second agent, and then output of second agent will be input to third agent, right? So it's like a chain. So we need to tell the agent that, hey, this is what input would be and this is what output would be, right? So agent needs to know what data it will format it will be getting in, right? So for that, there's a field called depths type in the Pydantic. So here we'll specify our input, right? So if you remember, job information, this is like a job post URL, right? So this will be our input. So we will need job information URL, job posting URL, and we will be needing the structured data of job posting from the job posting, the data that's fetched. Now let's specify result type. So you do it that by using result type, and here will be like job description agent result, right? Now next comes our system prompt, right? So we are going to write a system prompt that will tell the agent that, hey, this is what your role is, right? Maybe let's say you are HR specialist, right? So in the system prompt, we have to tell the agent what its role is and what is it expected to do, what will input look like, what will output look like, right? So that's what it is. So we'll say, hey, you are an HR specialist, and given job posting information, you are supposed to extract role, company name, experience, skills, and description. So just a basic simple prompt for that. And next we are going to write our tool, right? So let's just execute it. So now our agent is compiled. Now let's just go ahead and write the tool. If you remember, I said we have input job posting URL, but this agent cannot make a call to internet. So we will need a tool that calls internet, fetches the data, and gets a raw text, and then our agent will take text as input, and it will basically parse the information and return in the required format, right? So let's just write the tool here. So let's call it to get job details, right? So this is our tool, and let's call it. So the syntax for it is like, you have to use something called run context. So Pydantic, so it's like the agent will be running and it will be calling the tool. So agent, there has to be some DSL that with which agent can access that tool. So this is what that particular term is. So run context takes the input parameter. So here, for example, we are dealing with the URL, right? So dependency was job information, which is like a job posting URL. So this will be our input to this tool, and our output will be the raw job post information, right? So job description, agent dependency, I think this was the model. Yeah, so job information passed to raw text, right? So yeah, so now so one more tip while working with Pydantic is write as many as doc strings as you can, write as many as descriptions you can with the basically for the function, so that agent will know what this is for. So Pydantic agents basically use these doc strings and these strings, description strings, to understand what these fields are like, what are expected to. So this agent basically retrieves and extracts job posting information, right? So that's all it does. Now here we are going to use that tool that we wrote, that function that we wrote, right? So scrape website, with which actually returned us the data of my website, right? Where we'll get job post URL from context, right? So the context dot depths, so you can access this field using context dot depths. Now we are dealing with this model, so we'll say, hey, job post URL. Next, we need to get job posting information, right? So we'll say job posting information equal to scrape website. This is the tool that we, this is the function that we wrote, and we'll say URL equal to job post URL, right? So, and then we'll say, hey, return job description agent dependencies. This model was this one right here, job posting information in raw text, and this will be job posting information equal to job posting information, right? So that's it. Let me see if I can format this cell. Yeah, good. So okay, this is just a function. How should I tell that, hey, Pydantic agent, you have to use this function? So there's something decorator, and we are going to decorate our function with the agent, right? So this dot tool. So now this decorator tells the agent that, hey, this is a tool that you have in hand and you can use it to retrieve, extract job and posting information, right? So okay, let's just see and go ahead and try to run this agent and see what happens. So for that, let's call it job. Okay, let me first just run it. So let's call it job description parse job description agent result equal to, now let me just call my agent dot, like we did earlier, right? So what we do is basically we call run sync, since we are running in notebook, right? So we'll just do, hey, run sync, and now here we have to give a user prompt. So a system prompt is basically pre-context that, hey, this is your role is. So for example, I was a software engineer, so I should have some prerequisites. Now user prompt will be the task that would be given to me day by day. So maybe today work on this service, today do this, do this, do this. Those are user prompts, what user is asking, what your boss is asking. So for example, here agent is my employee and I'm its boss, so I'm telling today that, hey, now you're supposed to do this, and maybe next time I can ask something else, right? So let me just go ahead and type the user prompt. So please, let's say let's be polite with the mod agent. So please extract job description for the provided URL depth. So we will need to provide our agent with the URL, right? So we said, hey, please extract job description from the provided URL. Where is the URL? So we have to pass our agent the URL. And remember, I said agent, it's Pydantic, right? So you have to deal in terms of structured information, which are Pydantic model in, Pydantic model out. So for this agent, our input was supposed to be this type, right? So this was like a job posting URL. So let me just copy that field and say, hey, now URL. So I just grabbed a URL from Anthropic's website. So let's just go ahead and check what it looks like. So this was a job posting that I found on Anthropic's website. It's a software engineer for cloud AI. It's about Anthropic, about role responsibilities and what is expected of you, right? So everything, all the details. So I am going to use this. So this will be our job posting, and now I'm just saying, hey, this is the job post URL agent and you're supposed to extract every information, right? And if you recall, what we did was result, we grab it in a variable called result and we print result.data. So let's say print job description person agent result dot data. Okay, so let's just try to run it, and so it's running. Let's see what happens. So here right now agent is making API call to Groq, which has a Llama hosted there, and it will use the tool to get information from the job posting, and it will basically convert that to raw text, and then our agent will use that and it will convert to information, right? So I think some segmentation fault happened here. So it says, please reduce the length of the message completion, invalid request error, context limit exceeded. So what is the context length? Context length is basically the number of tokens that LLM can keep in memory and basically do some generation. So outside of that context length, it will start forgetting. It's basically like just like a memory for a computer. Same thing is context length for a model. So when your RAM goes full, your computer crashes, right? So similar thing happened here. So the context limit exceeded, so our model failed. Now let's think about why it would have happened. So we just said, hey, you are an HR specialist. Given a job posting information, you are supposed to extract role, company name, experience, skills, and description. So if you remember, we used this. So this is like some lot of information. This page has huge number of tokens, right? I don't know exactly how many, but so this particular thing, this agent right here. So let's see what our job posting information raw look like, right? So let's just run it again. So if you see, this is like job posting information. See, this is too much data, and we are using a 3B model, so it will like easily memory limit exceeded. So what we are going to do is it's all the game of prompting, right? So we have to be specific to our model with our system prompt that, hey, you are a job parser agent, and what are you supposed to do? Here we wrote a very general response, right? You are HR specialist, given job posting information, etc. You are supposed to do this. We didn't tell that you have to be this much descriptive, you have to do this, you have to do this, all right? And we didn't say you have to what kind of skills look like. So it might happen that the skills, this is an array, right? So it will basically wrote an entire 100-length paragraph about the skills. We have to be very particular about it, what we need in skills, what we need in descriptions, right? So let's just go ahead and improve the prompt. So basically I can use either I can use type the prompt myself, or I can use Claude or maybe any other model, right? So I can just go ahead to Claude and say, hey, this is my prompt. I need this to be, more enhance this prompt for me so that it makes sense. So I went to Claude and basically did that. So after that, I got this prompt that basically just works. So let's see what the prompt is. So say you are specialized HR assistant focused on analyzing and structuring job descriptions. Okay, this is the what your pre-context is. Now we specify what are your primary responsibility, what you're supposed to do. Number one, use the get job details tool to retrieve job information. It's already doing, but we have to be very specific. So when we specify a model step by step, it tends to do the job better because it just has to follow those things. Next, we'll say, hey, extract the categorize in pre-component including. So like these. So now we're specifying what we need. Even though we had our model specified format and had the description, but we did not tell the model system prompt that you are supposed to extract these. We just said that, hey, this is the fields that you have to do, but we did not be very specific about it, right? So now we are being very specific that, hey, you have to extract these fields, right? Next thing we missed, like we had to tell the agent that, hey, you have to format in this format, this model. So we say, hey, format all the outputs according to job description schema, and we also have to tell the model to be precise, right? So when we say be precise, the model generates only limited tokens and only those tokens that are valid, right? So it will not generate Mahabharat. It will be very concise, 1-liner, 2-liner. And also regarding skills, so we also specify what you have to do when skills, right? So we say, hey, focus on specific technical professional competencies. So it might have happened that for the skill of machine learning, it would have from scikit-learn to each, it might just have written every algorithm in that skill section. We are being very specific technical and professional competencies, like let's say graph neural network, or let's say convolutional neural network. These are very, very specific topics. We are not just going to go ahead and write name of every paper. We are being very specific here. And then separate distinct skills into individual items. Now we are telling the model that, hey, all those skills, separate them. You have each of them as different entity, and basically then make a list out of it, right? And then also we call it to standardize the skill name. So use industry standard skill like Python or C++. These are standard skills, right? You don't have to generate. You will not go ahead and write and say, hi, I use macOS. Is it a relevant skill for industry or job posting? It's not, right? So whatever is like standard skill, we are going to use that. Now one more thing, we have to tell the model that, hey, whatever information is missing, you can assume. and let's just go ahead and try now. So even though the prompt is bigger, but we have told the model that, hey, you have to supposed to do this and be specific about it. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we still printed our this. So now our model returned our proper formatted job description agent result. So he says, hey, software engineer Cloud AI. Let's see, it's a software engineer Cloud AI, and the company is Anthropic. Yeah, it's correct. And then experience 5 years experience software engineer, preferably APIs and interface. So let's see where this. So okay, so it grabbed correct. So 5 years experience. It correct. It's doing real good job. Now let's see skills. It says Python, AWS, machine learning. So let's see what is there. Now for the skills, it grabbed Python, AWS, and machine learning. So since Anthropic is an AI company, so most of the job is there is like built in Python and all, and machine learning. I do suspect that it has assumed some information, because if I saw here, it's like calling the job is like very diverse. Job role is diverse. It's called REST API, testing automation, and DevOps containerization. So the model did not, agent did not consider those as standard skills. Anyway, that I think that's just fine for this small task, because we are not building a production ready system. Let me just clean this up a bit, and I will basically comment the print line in our tool and maybe just run again. So let's see what happens. So all these files, if you see appearing here, these are the raw files downloaded by our agent. So let me just delete those. Alright, so we wanted to implement, so we are going to implement, now our first agent is done. So which basically takes a job posting URL, extracts the information from the job data by fetching it from the using the request module from the web, right? And it returns the data in this particular data model, right? Now next is our, given the job description, you are supposed to write a code email. So now we are next we are going to implement that agent. So we are going to call it cold email writer agent. And so remember, Pydantic AI agent, Pydantic model in, Pydantic model out. So let's first define our input and output format. So let's say class cold email writer agent input, right? So we'll say, hey, this is a base model, and what will it look like? So basically, I think we already have job description in our we have already extracted it using our the first agent. So this will be of type job description agent result, and so this is it, right? So next we are going to write some description for it. So let's say field, and with description. So this will be like I already wrote a description for it to save time. So like past job posting details, including role, company, required experience, skills, and full description. So that's it. I think that's our agent's input. Now next we are going to write our output base class, right? So let's call it class cold email writer agent result, or response. Let's call it response base model, right? So now an email has basically two things, a subject and a body. So we are not going to care about the who we are sending email, right? So subject is of type str string, and body is also of type string, right? So I also wrote a description for it. So email subject, it captures attention of the value propositions, and yeah, some description for body. So our input and output models are ready. Now we are going to implement our agent. So let's call it cold email writer agent is equal to agent. Okay, so model. So the first thing is model. So we are going to use the same model, our Llama 3.2 3 billion parameter model. Now input model and output model. So we'll specify just like the above. We said, hey, this is a depth type and the result type and system prompt, right? So we're gonna go ahead and call cold email writer agent input, and we're gonna say result type equal to cold email writer agent response. So input type and output type. Now system prompt. So now we are gonna need to write a prompt and tell it, hey, you are basically a good copywriter, and you are supposed to write an email. And also we have to also tell that you are from the consulting company. So you are a company that basically works as a headhunter, and it works for its clients and hire for them. So you have to specify them, and you have to be specific about that. Hey, you have to give this information, this thing, right? I wrote a prompt for it. So basically we are saying that, hey agent, you are a tech recruitment specialist from Turing, which is a company that is basically works in this business, and your job is to reach out to hiring managers about the firm's pre-vetted engineering talent pool, and using the provided job description, which is our old input, right? This that we extracted using one agent. You are supposed to write an email. So like we are being very specific about so to write a prompt, I basically first write the prompt, what thing I want, then I go to Claude or maybe ChatGPT and I ask it to improve it and enhance it so that it is better with agents, right? So, and it basically gives very nice response. So it's a good tool to use. So next, so we specialize that, hey, analyze role requirements and highlight relevant during portfolio projects, and creating concise, compelling subject lines, highlighting available talent. And basically we are not telling that, hey, you have to write in this body. And okay, so that's it. So this is our prompt, and now we are not going to use any tool because we already have the information that we need, which is in the agent input. We are already providing the job description, so we don't need to fetch anything else. Now we are just gonna go ahead and run this, and I think this runs successfully. We didn't get any error, bad request or anything. So let's call our agent result equal to cold email writer agent dot run sync. Now we are gonna provide a user prompt. So I think it can be simple. Please write a cold email, right? So now we are gonna say next is dependency, right? So agent takes Pydantic model in, gives Pydantic model out. So the input will be cold email writer agent input. In this we'll have job description equal to, what was this above? We said job description agent result dot data. So this is the Pydantic model, right? So we're gonna pass this here, job description agent input dot data, and we're gonna say, hey, pretty print result dot data. Let's see. Okay, we got a response. So it says, hey, unlock expertise in your AI initiative. It says, hey, dear hiring manager. Okay, maybe let's just pretty print the body of it, and let's see what happens. Pretty print result dot data dot body. Right, so it's nicely formatted now. Now you can see agent is saying that, hey, at Turing we have helped numerous companies like yours. So we basically understood that, hey, it's supposed to work as a recruitment specialist and it is going to write an email to hiring manager. So this is pretty good. Now next it says our portfolio showcases a project that align with your requirements, including a natural language processing project, etc., etc. So since the Anthropic is an AI company, so basically they are writing this kind of that, hey, everything related to machine learning, TensorFlow, PyTorch and all. It could have done better because the job posting we are originally referring to is basically for software engineer. So it basically, I think it's a cross-functional role. It requires you to have information, knowledge of backend and observability as well. I think QA automation. I think it's a very multiple hat role. So yeah, but given Anthropic's field is AI, so it's all about AI models, right? So I think model assume that, hey, I am supposed to write something like that, and then it basically says that what it sets the Turing apart. So that's pretty good. Now in last it concludes with saying that, hey, I'd love to discuss our engineering and contributor. This is really good. This looks pretty good, and undersigned is like RIA. So I already specified that, hey, you are RIA. So it remembered that, hey, this is a RIA. So I think, yeah, this is pretty good. So now we have our prototype ready. So let's recap. So we started with the basic agent, and we showed how to run a hello world agent, and then we went ahead and implemented a basic function that fetches the data from the web. Next, we implemented our first agent that, given a link, it uses the job details, get job details tool this tool to fetch the data from internet, and then with the system prompt and the user prompt, it converts the job description posting to a structured model job description agent result. Next, we implemented our second model, which is a code email writer, which expects the job description that we outputted in the first agent as input, and it outputs a nice email in the subject and body format. And this is how it looks like. Okay, so this was great, but this is a notebook only project. So let's go ahead and build something real out of it. So what we are going to do next is basically we are going to implement a basic user interface, URL in, email out. So that's going to be our goal in the next part of the video. So for that, we can basically, I don't want to use any heavy like front-end framework like React or anything. For the sake of simplicity, we can use the Streamlit and Gradio. So I am going to go ahead with Gradio because I particularly like it better. So it's up to you. You can use anything you want. So let's just go ahead and start building our end-to-end project, right? So we are gonna be following basic software modular design principles. So, and we are gonna be reusing all the code that we wrote here. So all was, experimentation. Now we are going to productionize it. I mean, it's good enough to at least run an app, right? So let's create first of all, let's create a requirement.txt file, right? So basically, we'll specify that, hey, we installed dependencies like nesting IO, Pydantic, and Pydantic AI, Rich, HTML, Python. So let's specify all of them. I'm not gonna specify the versions because it will automatically pick the latest one. But if we are supposed to build it in production, then we are supposed to specify the particular version. And I think we need to also get the requests module. And what else? I think yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. And let's also have the beautiful soup for because we used. And next, most important is Gradio, right? So we're going to, Gradio is basically a framework by HuggingFace that basically builds a front end in Python. So that's it. So next we are going to implement, let's create a folder called src. This will have our entire code, right? So, and here we'll have a file called app.py, which will basically have our Gradio code, right? So next, let's basically build our project. So okay, so our project structure will look like src will have app.py, in which we'll have our entry point of the app, where we'll specify the Gradio interface, right? And the next, we'll basically have an agent directory, which will have both of these two agents. And then we'll also have a file config.py where we'll load the environment variables, our Groq API key, and which will be used to call the LLMs, right? So let's just go ahead and first, or also I forgot one thing, we'll also have the a utils folder, basically that scrape from website, that was a util, so we'll keep it in a file called utils.py. So let me first go ahead and create the files, utils.py, and I'll have a file called config.py. This will have the configuration, and let me create a folder called agent. This will have our cold email writer agent, right? And we'll have our next called what is that, job description parser agent, right? So this is how our agent is going to look like. Next, let's just go ahead and copy the utils from one more thing. So remember we used nest async IO and basically running an event loop in background and running everything as synchronous, but this is a proper app, so we are going to use proper Pydantic nature of asynchronous programming, right? So let's just go ahead and copy this, and I'll paste it to utils.py. And right, so we can remove this last part here because we are not right. So this is going to be returning something of type string, right? As you can see, so it's better to include the types here, also string, right? So that's it. And config.py, in config.py we'll say we'll create a basic config class that loads the Groq API key and available. I mean, this is the general pattern of the design. So you have a config which, and you'll have, load from environment variables or a config.json file, right? So but I am doing here, I'm creating a class. I can just go ahead and load the environment variable, but to keep this, the purpose of this video is to also not forget the important programming, design patterns, right? So let me just go ahead and create a config class. Let's call it config, and we'll have just this called Groq API key. So it's a string. So our config class has only one string, right? Now we have to load the config, right? So let's call it let load config, and we're gonna make it a class method, right? So so that I can just call it from the class instance, right? So let's call it config, right? So let's just go ahead and load the Python environment using load.env, just like we did here, something like here, I think, yeah, here. So you see, right, we use .env python dot, right? So we are going to do the same thing from .env load .env and load the environment variable and just get the Groq API key, right? So you're going to say, hey, Groq API key is equal to os.get env. So in environment.example we said Groq API key, so you're going to just get that particular keyword and gonna get it. So if not Groq, so in case it's not available, we must raise some error, otherwise our app will not work. So let's say when Groq API key is none or it's empty string, you just raise a value error in Python and say, hey, Groq API key is must be set in .env, right? That's it, I think. Now let's just I should not have added a f string here. Let's say now we just need to return the variable. So like class Groq API key equal to Groq API key. That's it. That's our environment file list. So now in app.py we'll have everything from like Gradio interface, right? Now in the main.py, let's just load the config. So from config import config and just load the environment variables in a config variable, config.load config. Now this has our config dot Groq API key. As you can see, Groq API key is available through the config object now. Now let's just instantiate our basic Gradio app and then we can iterate on it. So let's say import Gradio as gr. So now we'll just create a Gradio interface. So let's say interface equal to Gradio has this interface object from which you can basically pass a handler that given the input and does execute the logic of your code and specify some UI using Python, vanilla Python, and it just builds a basic interface. So for that, first thing is function. So we need to get a function, we need to implement our app as a function, right? So for now, let's just say, hey, def, let's say cold email writer app, right? And it, like, we accept URL, right? So we'll say, hey, URL accept, and then the output shall be the string. Even though we had that job code email letter response, but in the end we have to present it as string data user interface. But user will not be seeing the Pydantic model because that's a development, that's a programmer attribute. It's not a end user attribute. So we'll say, hey, just return some cold email. Okay, let me just say that, hey, email is return multi-line string, subject email subject, and body is email body, right? So this will just basically return the string. So let's just do this for now. Let me just keep formatting the document, and I will call cold email write app. So here I pass my handler. So now our app will have an input text box where we will be accepting the URL from. So you can do that by saying, hey, inputs equal to Gradio has this text box field. So that's what we'll be using, text box, and I think lines equal to 1, and placeholder can be enter the job posting URL here, and let's also assign it a label that this is a job posting URL, right? Okay, cool. So next, we also need to provide the outputs of the app, right? So there will be an input box where we will be providing the URL, and there has to be an output box where actually we return the generated response from the it. So let's call it. It will also be a text box where we'll be populating the returned response text box, and I think let's say lines. Here we had only one line. Let's have, let's say, 15 lines, right? So I think it can be long. So label will be generated cold email, right? So that's what it is. So label is basically tagging the field that, hey, this text box is this, right? So whenever you when it will appear in an interface, on the top of the box it will have a label. So this is the form attribute, right? So next, I think we can just have some descriptions, and we can also have the basically I think this is just good. Let's see, let's just go ahead and run it. So if underscore name equal to underscore main underscore equal to. Now we launch our Gradio by using interface.launch. Now let's just go ahead and run Python src app.py. Let's see what happens. Okay, it says it is got an unexpected argument called output. See. Oh, I made a mistake. It should not, the output should not be in the inputs, but it should be like ours. It's a Gradio app's attribute. So input output belongs to a Gradio interface. So we say output equal to Gradio text box, and now just go ahead and launch the app. Hopefully it launches. Okay, I think it worked. It says gives me a link, and let me just go ahead and open that link. Nice, we got a basic template here. It says job posting URL. It was a label of our input text box, and this is generated cold email, and which is this, right? So this nice thing we got here, and it says interface.launch. So basically this is the minimal app, right? So, and here you're supposed to enter the job URL. Okay, now let's just go ahead and implement the core logic of it. We built a UI. You know what UI looks like, and we'll just call our agents, everything that we implemented here in the app. Now, one more thing, we'll need to convert it to async soon. So let's say async, right? Anyway, let's implement this later. So let's just go ahead and implement our agents, right? So let's go ahead with the first job description parser, right? So let's see, let's grab the code there. So first we got this, right? So I can just go ahead and paste here. Let's call another file agent.py, right? So all of it here. So inside, so basically our folder structure looks like this. So inside agent we have this parser agent. So I would like to keep the data and data model and the logic separate. So that's standard practice. So let me just go ahead and create a file called model.py where I will be storing all my Pydantic models. So all of this will go to that file. So let me just cut this and go to model.py and paste it. Now we'll just import necessary libraries from data class, import data class, and also import Pydantic base model, Pydantic field, and typing list. And is there anything else? Let me just go ahead and quickly format this document. I think it's already formatted. Now we can remove all this stuff here, clean up. So we have our agent here. Now we'll just import the data models in models in, models out, and this is our tool. So let me also import this model as well. I think this is bad. I don't want to use src because it generally errors with path and all. So let me just go ahead. And yeah, here utils may we implemented this scrape website, right? So let's just go ahead and import that scrape website util. I need to clean it. I don't know why it's calling src again and again. But anyway, so let's just let me just remove this print information. So now our one file has our model, Pydantic models, and our one file is our agent. Now this agent needs to be called by our app, right? So we'll implement the entry point for this agent, right? So basically, let's call it, and you remember that we called it a Pydantic is an asynchronous framework, Pydantic AI. So we'll implement an asynchronous entry point for this let's say call it run job description parser, right? And it will accept a job posting URL, which this is coming from the text box, and we'll see how we wire things up later. So it's of type str, and this is the response of agent 1. So it shall be same as this thing result type. So it will say, hey, job description agent result, and let's call it job description. Where we call the agent is here. So we're gonna copy basically the same thing here, and we're gonna paste it here. And the only thing we need to do is remove this run sync. We'll just do run. It already is an asynchronous function, and since it's an asynchronous function, this will be of type coroutine, so we need to await it, right? Now we just return job description agent result dot data. That's it. So this is our entry point of our agent 1, and so job posting URL, since there we there we provided directly, we are accepting it from the text box. Now we have to replace it with that input from function. So this is our agent 1. So next we are going to implement copy our old email data. So we'll have again agent.py, and then we have model.py, and here we'll basically copy the code from here. So let's just go ahead and copy the code from here, agent.py, right? So again, model and agent business logic in different files. So model here, and let's just import all the basically all the fields, job description agent result, Pydantic field, right? And again, I have to remove this part as well. In agent, let's just import all the things again. Pydantic AI input agent format document, and import this. And I think, yeah, that's it. Let's just also fix the import again, right? So I think, yeah, now again we need to write the entry point for our agent, right? So what we did in the notebook was this. So we'll just copy that here, and we'll say async, since it's an async framework, async def run basically. So what we'll basically do is we'll do async def run old email writer, and we'll say job description. Since this is agent 2, it will accept input from agent 2's output. So we'll have to specify the type there. So let me just quickly return result data, and here the output of agent 1 was, let's just get the model, this agent result. So we'll come here, we'll specify the type as this, right? Now we'll import that file, and okay, so we will just replace this here since we are accepting into a function. So this is it. Now this is our agent 2. Now we have to add things up. So we'll have to cascade them, right? So it's a sequential process. So let's just go ahead and create new file, agent.py, inside agent folder, and here let's just go ahead and import both agents. So we have run job description agent here, and we have old email writer agent here. Let's just fix the import first. Right, now we'll just make a entry point, right? So let's say async def get cold email, right, for job URL, right? So it's like URL and it's a string. Now we'll return the response in the model of this one, the code email writer response, and we'll say, hey, this is the code email writer agent response, and we'll say first let's just get the job description. So we do that by calling agent1, which is await run job description parser. Here we'll provide the job description URL equal to, we'll just pass this field here, right? So we'll say URL. Nice. So next we run our second agent. So we say cold email equal to await run cold email writer. Now our job description will be job description from agent1, and we'll just return the cold email, right? But what we have supposed to do is like this is our entry point, but we have to return the output as text, right? So basically somewhere we have to convert this Pydantic model into a text string, right? Multi-line string. So let's just do that, and let's say call it async app, or maybe let's call it entry point, right? So here we accept the URL again, string, and we basically return the string. Now this will call this one, and we'll call it, let's say, okay, I have to do async def. So we'll do get URL equal to URL await. So this is like agent output, right? And next what we do is let's just format the output, right? So let's say return subject equal to agent output dot subject, and let's say, and our body equal to, or maybe we don't need to write body in this. It's basically directly call agent.body. I think that's it. And I think multi-line string is not needed because we are using single already /ns. So I think that's it. So we'll just, now we just go ahead to our Gradio app, and let me just clean things up a bit. So agent1, agent2, our entry point, and in app here we'll replace this part. So we'll say import entry point, and remove this src again. Here also src, I think was there. Yeah, that's it. So app may entry point, we'll replace this code email writer app, and we'll say, hey, just remove this up, and let's just clean things, and let's run the app again. So we'll say, okay, this time our entry point is an asynchronous function. So we'll have to use different syntax for like launching the app, since for like asynchronous app. So for that we'll just have to call this queue function, right? So it runs the like it basically tells that Gradio app that, hey, this is asynchronous endpoint, and you have to run that accordingly. Let's call python src app.py and run our app. Okay, so I think somewhere it tried to import from src. I think, yeah, that's why I was saying that we have to remove the src part. Some Python parts is not working fine, but anyway, we can work around it right now. So I think, yeah, this app is running. Let's just go ahead and, okay, right. So this is our app. Let's just copy paste the same URL here and say, hey, just submit this, and let's see what happens. some error occurred. Job description agent result has object has no data. So I think we are going to do some error. Okay, so get job URL. What does say? Old email job URL. I think we did some mistake in here, and it says okay, what we are doing? Did we get some error or something? Upload email letter. Job description. Okay, I think yeah. So this is a Pydantic model, and I copied that code from here and I forgot to remove the data. So in that notebook, if you remember, what we were doing is here we are doing data. So here this comes from, this is output of agent 1, and this is this. So this is a Pydantic agent response, and we access the Pydantic model using the data. So we have to, I forgot to remove it. So I think I removed it now, and let's just clear it and run it again and say python src-py, and it lets me just do a hot reload, fresh reload, and copy URL from here and just say submit. Let's see what happens. Okay, something is wrong. It says event loop is already running. So what did I do wrong? Okay, I think here I forgot to remove the run sync function, so that's why we got this error. So we'll just remove this run sync, and we just call it asynchronous. Since we are inside the asynchronous function, we cannot call that run sync method, and let's just call the app again. And I hope this time it just works. And let's see, go ahead and type this and just copy job URL, and we'll say hey this. Let's see what happens. Okay, something error. So we were supposed to await this coroutine, since we just changed it from asynchronous to synchronous. So let's just await it again, and let's see what happens. And what is in the other agent? I think same, we did the await and return the data. So it should auto load and copy. Let's just submit. We'll see. Everything is wrong. Okay, great. We got a response. So it says unlock expertise of youth initiative, your hiring manager, blah blah blah. What was your post of this innovative projects, portfolio describes, and last me underside. I think here's formatting could have been better if I just zoom it for you. So this is our simple Gradio app that basically takes the job description URL and returns this nice formatted cold email. So cool.